Thank you for coming tonight's regular scheduled board meeting of Tuesday, April 16, 2024. I will now call the meeting to order. For those of you who can't stand, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Supervisor Kowal.
Here.
Treasurer Roman.
Here.
Trustee Smith.
Here.
Trustee Ruggles.
Here.
Trustee Voorhees.
Present.
And Trustee Powell.
Here.
Thank you. Full house. I need a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
I have a motion from Mr. Noble for approval of the agenda. Look for support.
Support.
I have support from Mr. Ruggles. All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it. Next item, number 5, public comment. Public comment is generally for items that are not, I repeat, not on the agenda. If you have something you'd like to address during the agenda, we usually will take some public input along the way. So at this time, anyone has anything to say, you'll have 3 minutes to state your case, so to speak, and identify yourself for the recorder. Seeing none, closing public comment, moving on to consent agenda. Consent agenda is a list of revenue expenses, check disbursements, bills, department reports, and things as such. It has been submitted, it has been reviewed. Looking for a motion to approve.
So moved, Mr. Supervisor.
I have a motion from Mr. Ruggles, support from Mr. Powell.
Yes.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. Thank you, gentlemen. Minutes of 7A and 7B, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of March 19th, 2024, and approval of the minutes of the special board meeting of April 2nd, 2024. Questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Supervisor, I tried very hard to find a mistake. I could not. I did find a mistake in the Planning Commission minutes,
Oh, okay.
but not in these. So therefore, I move approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting on March 19th and the special meeting of April 2nd, 2024 as submitted.
Thank you. I have a motion looking for support.
Support.
I have a motion from Mr. Powell, support from Andrew Voorhees. All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it. Next, item number 8, bond proposal for Walled Lake Schools, presenting by William Chatfield, Director of Facilities. The floor is yours, sir.
Good evening. I am Bill Chatfield, Operations Director for the Walled Lake School District. I want to thank the Township Board, administration, community members for giving me an opportunity to just provide an update on what is included in the May 7th bond election that is being held for the Walled Lake School District. White Lake Township has long been an important partner to Walled Lake Schools. I know students from White Lake Township attend many school districts, but over 1,000 students attend the Walled Lake School District, so we felt it was important to make sure that the board and the community know what's included in this proposal. We have an opportunity to make significant enhancements and improvements in our schools at no additional cost to the taxpayers. In fact, if this bond passes, it will result in a decrease in the school millage of 0.08 mils. Due to the fiscal prudence of our business department, bonds from the 2000 bond program, which were used to build in part Northern High School, are falling off, and we have an opportunity to continue the existing tax rate in order to make additional investments into our schools and infrastructure, similar to how we have moved forward with the last 4 bond issues. We've simply asked taxpayers to continue the same school millage rate, and in fact, over that time, it has dropped nearly half a mil. This program will include several major initiatives that were recommended by an advisory committee and approved by our board following a comprehensive facility utilization study that found, due to declining enrollment in our district as well as all others, almost all others in the county, we have some underutilization taking place in our schools. So several of the major initiatives would be to close and repurpose a yet-to-be-determined middle school. We are underutilized at the middle school level, and we intend to close one of those and repurpose it. We will relocate our adult transition program, currently housed at Western High School, to a space that can accommodate its current and future needs because it has outgrown its footprint at Western. We intend to close and relocate the functions at the district administrative offices. our ESC building, as we call it. We are going to close that, place those functions in another school that has the capacity to handle those administrative functions. We are going to close our Twin Sun Early Childhood Center on Loon Lake Road in Wixom, and we intend to make some significant improvements in the security and hardening of our facilities and upgrading our fiber optic network that runs throughout the district and connects all of our schools. And the Marquee project, similar to 2019 bond, which was used to rebuild Dublin Elementary right here in White Lake Township, we intend to rebuild Wixom Elementary on a new site that is currently owned by the district. Wixom Elementary is on our busiest thoroughfare of any school in the district, and it has some extremely complicated and challenging traffic issues that are difficult for us to deal with. Our current school millage is 4.13 mils. That would drop to 4.05 mils. What that means for the owner of a home with a $200,000 value and a $100,000 state equalized value, which is what the tax rate is based on, is that you would pay $405 in Walled Lake school taxes each year. And it is important to note that bond monies cannot be used for general operating expenses, salaries, benefits, supplies, things of that nature can only be used for school construction-related projects and infrastructure. So the bond represents an opportunity for us to continue providing 21st century learning environments at no additional tax increase, the same tax costs, slightly lower for the taxpayers. And we all know that good schools increase property values in a community, and I think Walled Lake Schools has shown that over the years. So I have provided the recording secretary with a packet of information that I believe some of you may have received earlier. We have all of the information on the school district website at wlcsd.org. There's an entire section dedicated to the bond where you can see the bond application itself, the entire 156-page document if you're suffering from insomnia, and many other great pieces of information on there. So thank you for giving me the opportunity, and I encourage everybody to get out and vote on May the 7th. I'd be happy to answer any other questions, but I do appreciate the opportunity.
Any questions from the board this time?
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Mr. Powell?
I'm a 1971 graduate from Walled Lake Central, and so I've been around, graduated from the Walled Lake schools. Something you said, you're going to replace the fiber optics network in the Walled Lake schools. Do your IT department believes that that's more economically viable than going wireless throughout the entire district?
Yeah, all of the data that runs between our schools runs along that fiber optic network. All of the district servers are currently housed at the administrative offices. So all of the everything from our card readers that do a swipe at Dublin Elementary, that signal goes back to the administrative offices to allow the user to enter the building. The wireless systems simply aren't ready for prime time in that regards. We have almost 2,000 video surveillance cameras throughout the district protecting our property. Those range upwards of 5 megapixel cameras. That kind of data can only be carried through the fiber optic network system at this time. Perhaps in the future, wireless would be an option, but right now, the only way we can adequately share information between schools and with the Oakland ISD is through the fiber optic network.
Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
Mr. Roman?
Oh, Bill, how much were you looking to bond out for in total?
That is $250 million that we can generate with no tax increase. And that is simply due to the increased property values and the fact that we have paid off debt early.
One of the payments is falling off.
So one of the
Correct.
payments must be falling off, was the thing.
Yeah, the
How,
2,000 bond is
How
falling
long
off.
is the debt millage proposal? How long does it go out? Is it a 10-year? Is it a 20-year? Is it?
The overall bond is projected to be a 30-year debt obligation. There are certain things in the bond, however, like technology equipment that has to be paid off sooner because it's useful life isn't 30 years. School infrastructure, building components, a new school, for instance, will be leveraged out over a longer period. But in the end, the average is a 30-year debt payment. The 2000 bond, for example, that was also a 30-year debt, and we've ended up paying that off in 24 years.
Good for you. So are you asking for a 30-year millage, a 20-year millage, a 10-year millage?
If you go on the district website and look at the bond application, it will lay out the schedule for the next 30 years. So it's projected as a 30-year payout. However, the bond itself is based on the monetary value of $250,085,000. That's what we are asking the taxpayers to approve, not a duration.
Oh, so there is no duration for the millage then?
There's a scheduled duration of 30 years.
Interesting. Never heard of that one.
Any other questions?
No, I just want to thank you for coming. There's 3 Walled Lake grads sitting here.
Excellent.
And if anyone hasn't been to Dublin yet, it's state-of-the-art, and their telecommunications and fiber optics is just stellar. It's incredible. So thank you for the
Thank
presentation.
you for coming to the groundbreaking
Yeah.
and everything.
I've had the fortunate enough to know, about 26 years, Bill, when I was working in Wild Lake, and it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for coming out tonight, and great presentation.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Any questions? Okay, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Have a great evening.
Great evening.
Thank you. Next item, 9A, public hearing to hear comments on the confirmation of the emergency sewer connection Roll 2024-01 Special Assessment District SAD. At this time, I will make a motion to open the public comment, to hear the comments on the confirmation of the emergency sewer connection roll, and I call for a roll call vote.
Supervisor Colwell,
Yes.
Treasurer Roman,
Yes.
Trustee Voorhees,
Yes.
Trustee Powell,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Trustee Ruggles,
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes.
At this time, anyone who cares to make a public comment on the confirmation of the emergency sewer connection roll for the 2024-01 Special Assessment District may come forward and identify themselves for the recorder. Seeing none, I make a motion to close the public hearing. Make a motion, looking for support.
Support.
All right, motion, I have support by Mr. Noble. All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is now closed. Moving on to 10A, Resolution 24-015 to confirm the special assessment roll for the Special Assessment District SAD designated emergency sewer connections 2024-01. For the public, just briefly, this board has adopted this policy to move forward for sewer connections, emergency sewer connections, where they are available in situations where there's been a failure with a septic system. This is a program that's now been going on several years, has been fairly successful, I think very successful, has achieved an objective that I know that our sewer committee is wanting to do, and it moves forward. I am looking for a motion. Mr. Powell?
Go ahead. Yes, Mr. Supervisor, I move approval of Resolution 24-015 to confirm the special assessment roll for the Special Assessment District designated emergency sewer fund.
Support?
I have motion, I have support by Mr. Ruggles. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Trustee Ruggles,
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes. Supervisor Colwell.
Yes.
Treasurer Roman.
Yes.
Trustee Powell,
Yes.
and Trustee Voorhees.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next item, request to approve a preliminary site plan of Gateway Crossing. And for those of you who do not know where that was in the public, or where it is in the public, it's on the southwest corner of Bogey Lake Road and M59. Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Board. Before you tonight is a request from Brian Ager and his group. Project's called Gateway Crossing at the location the supervisor just mentioned, southwest corner of Bogey Lake and M59. This site's been sort of clear and ready for development for many years now, and they are advancing a site plan that went to the Planning Commission on April 4th, and at that time, they received a recommendation for preliminary site plan approval. The Planning Commission also granted them special land use approval for a drive-through at the east end of the building for a drive-through coffee user that has not been identified yet, as well as some outdoor seating. Pretty straightforward request. There are some things in their plan, in particular parking, that sort of is tied up with another request you'll have on the agenda. They are a little short on parking, but I believe that if the ordinance amendments that are proposed tonight advance through the process, that will kind of resolve itself. Otherwise, I think they've agreed to all the conditions that were talked about at the Planning Commission and in the review letters. They may wish to make some additional comments up with the site plan up for you as well. Mr. Lufkin's here if you have any engineering questions, but it's a pretty straightforward request. What I should also mention is that they will be installing a fairly significant section of pathway, not only on M59, if you remember where the pathway that the township put in across the ITC corridor ends just west of Bogey Lake Road. Not only that section, which is very important, which I'm showing kind of here with the mouse on the screen, but a very long section down Bogey Lake Road, Rich, there's really no pathway that exists at all at any point on Bogey Lake Road. And so this is sort of a beginning of a connection that'll run south on the west side of Bogey Lake Road through the site and in a boardwalk across the wetland, and how it hits this driveway is still yet to be finalized, but you can see that here. So that's from a pedestrian access standpoint. It's kind of a nice feature in having this corner developed. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. If you have any questions for Mike regarding any of the engineering, I'm sure he would be happy to answer them as well. If you look through the packet and saw a different site plan that accompanied the traffic study, it's because the traffic study was from January of last year. And so kind of fast forwarding, some things have changed. Some different end users are proposed at this site, and they're right now talking about just this one building where previously there were two. So again, if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. The applicants are here. Keith Messias is representing Mr. Nager tonight, and should be able.
I noticed the project was condensed from a previous version.
A little bit, yep.
And it's nice to see that corner starting to come to fruition because it's been sort of a thorn in our side for a while. So it's a good thing that we're seeing something going on there.
A lot of activity at that intersection with the Myra Outlots and then this at the south
Hi,
corner.
good evening. Thank you.
You'll need to identify yourself.
My
for the
name is
recording.
Keith Mazias. I'm with the Nager Companies, the owner.
Sir, I couldn't hear you. Can you speak up?
Keith Mazias with the Nager Companies, owner and developer of the property.
Could you-
Maziasz.
Thank you.
Yes, we're also anxious to get started. The Nagers have owned the property for about 9 years now, and we've identified what we believe is a very strong user and one that will, is a catalyst to get the whole project out of the ground. So we're anxious to move forward.
Okay, well, I think that the plan is a nice, clean plan for that corner.
Thank you.
And it's good to see, again, that come to fruition. I'm also happy that we're seeing, as part of our ordinance, but also in your project, the pathway coming down, because the township right now is really trying to emphasize that on development.
Right.
And doing our own project as we speak. So that's extremely important. Questions or comments from the board? Mr. Roman?
Yeah, thanks for doing this. That corner is needed and needed something for so long. So great to see it and good luck with it.
Thank you.
Mr. Noble?
If you're at liberty to let us know, what kind of tenants do you have coming?
The one anchor tenant, the coffee user, unfortunately, we're under confidentiality agreements
Got it.
at this point. But at the appropriate time, they generally like to make the announcements.
Okay, thank you.
Let
Thanks
the
for
cat out of
coming.
the bag, so to speak. Yeah. Trustee Smith?
I'll just echo Mr. Roman. I'm pleased to see something go there. I think it's sat empty since maybe the late 90s. So it used to be a very active corner with the party store there.
Yes.
And so I think it's a great plan, and I think it'll be welcomed by our residents. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you. We look
And I'm
forward to it.
excited about the sidewalk as well. That's great.
I'm excited about the coffee.
Yeah. Mr.
Not enough
Ritters,
coffee.
would you care to make a motion?
Sure, Mr. Supervisor. Make a motion to approve the preliminary site plan known as Gateway Crossing.
We have a motion, looking for support.
Support.
I have support from Mr. Noble. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving forward. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I know it was a
Thank you.
formality, but we appreciate you being here. Okay. Next item, 10C, FOIA appeal for Malcolm and Jennifer Shaw. There has been a request for a FOIA appeal. If my associates have read this, they have also seen what the attorney's suggestion is. I'm recommending, as well as the attorney, that we follow this particular instruction and request. Any questions or comments this time before I move forward? Seeing none,
I'd like,
whoop.
oh, I can make the motion, move forward with that?
I have it.
Okay, got it.
So I will make, in light of the foregoing, will the township to affirm the police department's reliance upon the privacy exemption to redact substantial portions of the police report. The same is true as any medical information the police department removed from the original report. However, the township should provide a revised police report identifying the victim and witness names only. So the motion to affirm the police department's reliance upon the privacy exemption to retract substantial portions of the police incident report, including medical information. However, the township should provide a revised response to the FOIA request identifying the victims and witness names only. I make that in the form of a motion. I repeated it so that it would be very clear. Looking for support.
Support.
I have motion and support. Roll call vote.
Trustee Ruggles,
Yes.
trustee Smith,
Yes.
clerk Noble, yes, treasurer Roman,
Yes.
supervisor Kowal,
Yes.
trustee Voorhees,
Yes.
trustee Powell.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item. In case you could not sleep at night, a little light reading goes a long way, okay?
Yeah, no kidding.
Down in there somewhere. So,
It's been going on for 2 years.
oh, yes. And before we get started, I would like to really put a shout out to a very special lady here, Mary Early, who was essential in giving us a lot of public input, review time, and her and Justin were in there, and they weren't knitting a sweater. They were in there actually working on this thing. So I certainly appreciate it for all your dedication for the two of you. I saw her, I didn't see you, so
And thank you for,
gotta kind of go her way a little bit.
and thank you for
Thank you,
correcting
Mary.
him. Thank you for correcting Justin.
Yes, and keeping him in line. So, because it's truly, this process truly takes public, and I want to emphasize to the public that when we have persons who don't necessarily agree with this plan, it isn't an absolute letter of the law of what we're going to do. It is a plan that has been researched and looked at through a number of different studies and conditions and a lot of public inquiry. And it's just a determination that's made to give us a guideline to help us to move forward in the future. It's also required by law every 10 years, correct? Five? 5 years, I beg your pardon. And, well, I'm not thinking 10, but
Well, so it's been more than 10 years since we've updated it, but we review it and re-adopt it every 5.
time goes by.
Yeah.
So, and it's a kind of a guide for us to go by. It's not gospel, but it gets us going in the right direction and gives us some direction to plan for the future. So the master plan is also often required on many grant applications. There's often a little box right next to it that says, do you have a master plan? And if you don't hit the yes, you generally, that's the firewall for a lot of these grants. So it's extremely important that we have this and extremely important that we have this input from the public. So it's certainly appreciated. Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you for that. I agree with what you've said, and I want to thank the Earlys too. Mrs. Early, I think the only person who knows this plan better than Justin is Mary Early. And in that meeting, I saw her he was in a headlock for like a very brief period of time. He gave up. She won. We agree. I mean, we don't mess with Mary Early anyway, as you all know. So, but thank you in all sincerity. Right. Yeah, that's right. We do appreciate it. And you know, she was compensated by us putting a picture of her house in the master plan. I don't want to say which page, but it's in there. All right, we won't put her address
Proud
on
of
the
it, so
record.
you might as well give her accolades.
But her yard looks very nice, as does the deck and everything else. But anyway, the Planning Commission on April 4th had the required master plan public hearing at the end of the process. This has been going on now for roughly, I think, 15 months. And I think you all saw it right around the end of the year when you authorized the release of the plan for review. At the time, there were just some very minor comments that you had, and those were addressed through the Planning Commission in the process. So we really didn't get a whole lot of feedback outside of the initial survey, which was, I think, just shy of 1,400 respondents, which was amazing. I think the last time we did this, we were at 200 or 300. So that was fantastic. We had a couple of open house sessions here. Many of you were able to participate. I think one of them, we had nearly 100 people in this room, which was fantastic. I mean, this plan is only as good as the input, and we received a lot of input, and the plan tacks in various directions along the way based on the input we received. So very proud of the process, proud of all the hard work of everyone in this room, everyone on our team, the residents who participated, the Planning Commission who did a fantastic job. I want to say there were, I said 8 or 9 earlier tonight, at least 8 or 9 meetings before the public hearing where the Planning Commission was in some way considering some portion of the master plan. And it's just a lot of work, and it's a long process. It's supposed to be a long process so we can gather that input. And the next step, the final step in the process is for you, after the adoption of the Planning Commission of the plan a week and a half ago, is for you to make your consideration to approve or deny the plan. And I want to again specifically thank Mary as well as Justin in our office, who the two of them, when I say that they know the plan better than everyone else, I'm not exaggerating. They've read it multiple times and are responsible for many edits in much of the content that's in there, along with the folks at Beckett and Rader, and again, the Planning Commission as well. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, the 2024 master plan is before you for your consideration.
Okay, any questions from the board?
No, I would just like to make a comment. The Planning Commission, I'd like to thank all the commissioners. I mean, we spent a lot of time on this. The meetings, those 10 meetings, they were long meetings, So, and anybody that lives in White Lake, they've more than had the opportunity to come in and have a voice and talk about it and help guide the process. So if anybody thinks that they haven't, they have. And thank you for all the residents that have showed up, and thanks for everybody that's contributed. And I'm excited about it. I think we did a great job on it. So thank you. Thanks, Mr. O'Neill.
Questions or comments?
I got one.
Mr. Powell? Well, go that way first.
Yeah.
Whoever.
Sorry. First of all, I'd like to thank all the planning commissioners. I'd like to thank Director O'Neill, Justin, Quaglata, staff and all the staff that worked on this. I was on planning commission. It's got those long meetings, 4 or 5 hours sometimes. A lot of work goes into it. Director O'Neill, there's I can't remember which page, but I remember seeing it when we talked about multifamily. And it basically, do you remember what page that was on?
It's on page 50 of the plan.
So page 50 of the plan. Let's see.
Are you talking about the statement regarding where we
Yes,
stand
sir.
with multiple family?
Yeah, could you read that off for me, please?
That's really important to point
I'd
out.
be happy to. Let me look here. That statement, I believe, is the one that says, based on existing, and approved projects, there is an adequate supply of rental units to serve township residents. Is that the one that you're referencing?
Yeah, and can I ask you another question? What does that mean to you, that statement?
Well, I think, to me, it's not putting an end cap on multiple family housing. And obviously, multiple family housing can be an ownership type product or it could be a rental type product, and we have a share of both. But to me, I think that's a statement from the township saying that that's not something we're going and seeking out. It's something that we're pretty caught up on. As you all know, we've seen quite a few multiple family projects come through here in the last couple of years. Many hundreds of units that have been approved or built or are in the process of being approved. And I think that's one of the things the Planning Commission was focusing on, that they really want to drive the balance back to ownership units to kind of offset all the rental units that have come online or are in the process of coming online.
Yeah, pride of
So-
ownership is important.
Yeah, so when you say the township, who are you referring to? The people in the study or the township as a whole? Or is it residents that you meet every day? Where are you getting that information?
So the information on our existing supply?
Correct.
Well, I mean, obviously, we had a survey, and we had quite a few respondents who weighed in on it, and I think their comments were in line with this statement. And I'm basing it on the kinds of projects that over the last couple of years we've seen come through our office and come through the planning commission, this board, and that's kind of what we're basing it on. The hundreds of units that have come online and are in the process of coming online versus, for rent versus really the lack of a comparable number of for sale or ownership type multiple family units. So obviously it's demand driven. We can't force an applicant to go one way or another, but that's just how they've come in more recently. And I would say that a few years ago we were underserved, but we've got some nicer projects that have come in, and I agree with the statement, and I think the Planning Commission completely agrees, is that I don't think we're underserved at all. I think we're in pretty good shape, and that's why they wanted that added.
Yeah, because when I read it, what I hear, and I'm sure other board members can agree with me, and is the stakeholders, which are every one of us that live in White Lake Township and the residents, have come forth, and this has put their input on this, and that's where that really stuck out with me, because that was an important statement in that 583 documents that we have here today.
Sure. It's a combination of the feedback we received and again, as I've mentioned a couple times, the number of projects that have come in over the last few years that we're kind of checking this box for a community to provide an ample supply of rental housing.
Thank you, and I appreciate all the hard work again. I know you guys put a lot of time and effort and had a lot of people here that night. I remember it was a warm evening, so appreciate all your time.
We appreciate the
Your
board's
staff,
support.
thank you.
Thank you.
Questions or comments?
I have a quick comment.
Yes. Trustee Smith.
So I want to thank Mr. Supervisor for the introduction, and I want to reiterate that it's just a guide, and it's a tool, it's a planning tool, it is not anything set in stone, and I think that's really important for the public to understand. And thank you, Mr. Noble, for touching on that part of rentals. That's been a common misconception that's stirred up in our community, so I want to clarify that. And then I just want to thank everybody. This was a great team effort, our staff, board, and public. And the public did have plenty of opportunity, multiple opportunities to weigh in on this. And we did listen, and things have been tweaked. And but don't take it as the gospel. Please don't pull one page out of this and say, it's happening, because that's not the purpose of a master plan. So it's really important to understand the fundamental basics of municipal government and the purpose of a master plan. And the purpose of a master plan, as we have said numerous times now, is a guide and a planning tool only. So thank you.
Okay. That being said, Mr. Roman?
Yeah, Sean, I just wanted to question you just a little bit more about that statement on that page 50, that the township has enough or a sufficient amount of rental units. I understand you've got some input from residents. Just curious if that statement looks at neighboring communities as far as statistics, for example, number of rental units per person, or maybe number of rental units as a percentage of all residences. Was any of that looked at when that statement was made?
A lot of the information, a lot of the demographic information was pulled from SEMCOG and Census. So we didn't do a deep dive on, it looked at county statistics in some of these areas, but we didn't do a deep dive into neighboring communities.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Mr. Powell?
I want to reiterate what my colleagues on the board said. This is a dynamic document, and there's only one thing that I wanted to point out, and I've been trying to get the Road Commission for Oakland County to agree to allow for bike lanes alongside of roadways. There's a great picture, and unfortunately, it's our page number, our packet number of 392. I don't know what page it is in the actual document.
63.
53?
63.
63. That being said, I want to point out to our residents that the Road Commission for Oakland County, even though this document says that there are roads ripe for the pathway, the center picture there. The road commission absolutely will not allow that to happen. I've been working with them for some 20 years to allow that to happen in communities that I represent, and they just really balk at that. They want the pathway to be separated from the roadway by 12 feet, which really blocks out the pathway in most roadways. I think this should be in here because if the road commissioner changes their mind, it's a great tool, and if you're a city or a village, you can actually do that because you own the roadways and you don't need the road commission's approval. But here in this township or in any township, the road commission will not allow it. That being said, this document is so impressive that it would be great if the township could somehow approach a publisher and see whether or not it couldn't be published. I would buy it as a keepsake. It is so good for White Lake Township. If it were bound, I think it would sell, and especially through all the contacts we have and the committees. It's a beautifully put together document, so I want to thank you for that.
Amazon Publishing.
There you go.
It's like now we know what to get you for your birthday.
Yes.
Right. What do you get for the trustee who has everything?
That's
you know?
right. That's right. That's a dynamic document.
And
so-
Mr. Supervisor, before I forget, if I could add just one more thing, what we do get as a part of, and I appreciate the comments, and it's been a great team effort. We get an executive summary version. They call it a magazine version of this plan. So this is almost 150 pages. And while it's all interesting and good reading for us because we're involved in it, sometimes people just want to cut to the chase. So the draft of that was sent to me just this afternoon by Beckett and Rader, and it's a 20-page document, and it's just a quick read to give you kind of some of the, really, again, it's an executive summary, the core elements of the plan. If you want to learn about White Lake, but you don't want to sit down and go through 150 pages. So you can, they'll both be available. So when that gets finalized, and it is just a summary, there's nothing needs to be approved, just sort of an extra piece of literature. I'll make sure I share it with you just as soon as it's ready. So
That's great to have. It's like Cliff Notes.
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
Yep.
good to have. Mr. Ruggles, you care to make a motion?
Wait, I have one more. Can those
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Can that condensed version be put on the website? Because I agree, I forget how informational these are
Absolutely.
until I read them again.
Yep, both the master plan and the master plan executive summary will be on there, for sure, once we get it done.
Thank you, that's all I had.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, Mr. Supervisor. Motion to approve the adoption of the 2024 master plan.
Support.
I have motion, I have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Hey, that's exciting. Good
Yeah,
job,
moving-
everybody.
Moving forward.
It took forever.
Next item, first reading amendments to zoning ordinance, Articles 2.0 definitions, 3.0 zoning ordinance, District 4.0 use standards, 5.0 site standards, 6.0 development procedures, and 7.0 administration appeals and enforcements. And there has been, I look at this as sort of a housekeeping item that periodically we go along and we find things that have either changed in their application and/or wisdom has taught us to look at things differently. So I know you have a number of things in here that you have. I do have a couple of questions, but I will step aside for other comment for the time being. Anyone have any questions or comments at this time on this information?
Mr. Supervisor, if I could call out a few highlights, just really quick, so.
Which may be
the
where
public-
I'm going, but go ahead.
So, sure, a couple things that I think are important to call out. One, there was the outdoor seating issue in restricted business that was related to a rezoning request a couple of months ago that ended up being a moot point because of the way they rezoned, the board decided to rezone. But we moved ahead and do allow for some outdoor dining flexibility. I think one of the biggest things that'll probably be a benefit to literally thousands of homeowners is that we've taken the lot coverage number with this proposal and we've gone from 20 to 25% for lots that have septic and up to 30% lot coverage for lots that are on sewer. And we've got, as you all know, thousands of homes on lakes that really are challenged by the 20% lot coverage number. This is some of the most expensive property in the township, per square foot. And the 20% has caused many, many zoning board of appeals cases over the years. So this 5% on a 10,000 square foot lot that'd be substandard would represent a 500 square foot increase, as an example, in your ability to cover your land. So many people come in wanting a garage or a small addition. A 500 square foot addition or a, good-sized two-car garage could be built now on property that's at 20% just by allowing that owner to cover 25. And I think that's going to give, I don't want to say relief, but that's going to give a lot of flexibility to literally thousands of our residents and let them make more, better use of their land, more use of their land, and would not be required to go to the ZBA in order to do so. And I think that's a big one. And I think that's probably a little overdue, and I'm pretty happy that we're pushing that forward. One of the other items that's kind of come up a couple of different times, which also allows some property owners to make more use or better use of their land, is that when we do land divisions and we're looking at the size of a parcel, it's always been a net figure in White Lake Township. So you take the road right-of-way or easements out of that calculation. This set of amendments allows for property that's zoned R1A, suburban farm, or agricultural, which are all 1 acre, 2 acre, 5 acre lot minimums, to use a gross acreage number, which means they can use the road right-of-way, which means a 10 acre lot might actually be able to make 10 1 acre lots instead of 8 acre and a quarter lots, because you've got to remove a certain portion of that area calculation for a road right-of-way. The reason we focused on the larger lots is because they're so large compared to the average lot size in the township that really wouldn't cause any kind of a hardship with developing the land or building a home on it and, running into an area an issue where you didn't have enough land. That should be pretty well received, I think, by the average property owner. Parking, we've got lots of buildings that are overparked. Just kind of look around, and we've had some requests recently where, like the applicant tonight, they couldn't meet our parking standards. We have a parking minimum. We decided to flip the parking and make that same schedule, the same way we factor parking. That doesn't change, but now it's a parking maximum. So if you were required to provide a minimum of 50 spaces, now you're not required to provide a minimum, that's your maximum. So we're not over parking. And then the ordinance goes further to say, at your discretion, applicant, you can park 25% less spaces. I think it would be responsible for us to land bank some area for additional parking if they find out that they're short. We're basically backing off on most applicants by 25% with parking. Now, believe me, these applicants are going to want to maybe challenge in some cases that maximum, because many of them want to be overparked, but that's for 2 days out of the year. It just seems like that's not a great way long-term for us to go. I mean, it's more to build, more to drain, more to plow, more to just maintain. And so I think it will be pretty well received by the vast majority, and we won't, again, see people going to the ZBA asking for variances for parking because they can't meet the minimum. And then one of my favorites is the increase of the length of time for not only a variance approval from 6 months to 12 months, which is very appropriate, and then also the extension of a final site plan approval from a 1 year period of time to a 2 year period of time. We've left preliminary alone. Preliminary is a 1 year, you have 1 year before your preliminary site plan expires, and if at preliminary you're not able to advance into final, something's wrong. It's final site plan that takes so much more time to get, because that's when you're getting all of your permitting through agencies that are out of our control, and as many of you know, that can take many months. So that, I think, will alleviate some hardship on both residents who go to the ZBA and applicants who come in and get approval and are just kind of wading through the quagmire of regulatory approvals at the back end. So I think those are important to key on. Other than that, I think the rest is basically housekeeping, trying to clarify some definitions, things like that.
I do have a couple comments on a couple areas that I have concern in. I do want to commend you on the parapet signage, above roof parapet. That was always one of those little, again, as I'd mentioned earlier to the, internally and to the public, you learn by things that you do and things that you go, wait a minute. what makes sense. Beyond Juice might not be able to have their sign where it looks very appropriate on their building where it is at the new complex down at Four Corners, and have quite a variety of selection, and it's good. Anyways, little plug there. So, but, new business. So, but the bottom line is that was one unintended consequences by how that was originally written, and we worked our way through it, saw the wisdom to change that. The lot coverages, Part 15, Part 16, Part 14, there's several sections in there that were important. The one that does concern me, and I'd like to have a little conversation with it, is the Pontiac Lake Gateway District, which would be Part 21 or page 4 of your submittal that you have there, that we're going from 70 feet or 6 stories, whichever is less, as a special land use, and then we're at 40 foot or 3 stories, whichever is less. Due to the nature of that particular area and the long-term intention of this board and the planning, I still say that we should allow 4 stories. I don't know if we can word that in. We do have a party that has an interest in it, and they've actually asked me to read a letter into the record. And I shall do so if that is fine with everybody here.
You're going to read the whole letter?
Yes, it'll only take a minute. Sean and members of the White Lake Township Board, I regret to inform you that due to a commitment, I am unable to attend the proposed zoning change meeting scheduled for this evening at 6:30 p.m. However, I would like to request that someone read the following statement on my behalf. When I purchased my property, 8300 Pontiac Lake Road, in 2022, I did so with the understanding of its current zoning and intentions of develop a stunning multifamily component in White Lake Township. Regrettably, circumstances have not unfolded as anticipated. Nevertheless, I firmly believe that we are close to creating one of the most desirable communities in White Lake Township. I urge the board to exercise sensitivity in considering such a drastic change in zoning, given the substantial investment I have made in my time, energy, architectural engineering drawings, not to mention the significant financial commitment in acquiring the property based on its existing zoning. My vision includes the construction of a 4-story, 44-unit building, a concept that has received some endorsement from the board and approvals for the height from the fire department and the airport authorities. While I commend the board for its attentively listening to the concerns of the community members, I respectfully suggest that there be more room for improvement in collaborating with developers, especially in my case, as we have spent so much time and effort meeting with the township to find the right fit. In conclusion, I am confident that I will return before the township with a revised plan featuring fewer variances and a greater emphasis on green spaces. I am eager to work through any differences and realize my vision of creating an exquisitely beautiful community in White Lake that we can all take pride in. Thank you for your attention in this matter. Sincerely, Michael Zier, President of Zier Company Holdings. So
just so you know, that came up at the Planning Commission. The same letter went to the Planning Commission a couple of weeks ago. They were not moved by the request to go to 4 stories. At the staff level, we just feel that 6 stories and 70 feet is far too much, and the Planning Commission denied a request for a 5-story building by Mr. Zier back, I think, in July or August of last year. And so I guess if you do want to make a change to what's proposed tonight, I think you could leave the 3 stories and 40 feet is the same. That's what the standards currently allow. So if you wanted to add a 4th story and, maybe 45 feet, I know it's only a 5-foot difference, but if you look at Part 22, you'll notice that we've really brought the required scale of a building down. And I don't know why. For all these years, we've had a first floor, ground floor minimum requirement of 14 feet in height. All it does is drive the height up. If someone wants to propose it to be more than 10 feet, that's fine, but we've cut the minimum to 10, and then the upper floors go from 10 feet to 9. So that's why I think you don't need to go with an additional 10 feet. You could say 4 stories and still say 45 feet because it's going to get pushed. The height will get pushed down by Part 22. I mean, just a recommendation where you split the difference maybe, where you're maybe allowing a 4th story as a special land use, but you're not giving them all that additional height. But everybody agrees that's involved agrees 6 stories and 70 feet is far too much.
yeah, that was a little imposing. There's no
Right.
question about it, especially when you saw the drawing at scale. And there was quite a bit of concern from the folks on Pontiac Lake. However, there's the same concern, on the other hand, where people want to see something developed here that's going to enhance the lake. And of course, they want ownership. They don't want apartments. They really feel that condominiums and that pride of ownership and taking equity in the lake is extremely important. And I believe that we should consider either having verbiage in there that goes 3 stories and possibly 4 stories of special land use.
You could do that. I mean, all it would do is where you see it on part 21, where you see the strike through where it says 70 feet and 6 stories, it would be whatever height you arrive at a decision on, if you so choose, and 4 stories. So that extra story would be granted only through the special land use process that would currently exist.
Mr. Powell?
Thank you. I have some issues on this same item. First of all, in reading this, and maybe Mr. O'Neill can help me, what does it mean when it says 40 feet or 3 stories, whichever is less? It's like apples and oranges. It depends on what color you want. How do you end up with 40 feet or 3 stories, whichever's less? What does that whatever's less mean?
So I think what it's trying to do is to say you can't just build these giant, if you had giant stories, you may be able to, exceed, obviously there has to be a story and a height requirement. Because if you just said 3 stories and every story is 20 feet, then you have a 60-story building.
Plus the roof
So
line.
what does the or less mean?
Midpoint on the roof line.
That's what I mean.
I mean, it's just driving, I guess it's driving it down.
Could it say then, could it say the maximum height 40 feet and maximum stories 3? I just didn't understand what or less means. I mean, it just, I don't understand that.
Yeah, it's a
You
little-
could make it simply, 40 feet and 3 stories. That's the
Maximum,
most.
a maximum of 40 feet and a maximum of 3 stories.
But, right, so someone could put a 40-foot tall 2-story building.
Correct.
They could. I mean, that would be really weird, but yeah, they could.
I think that's true, but I think that, to your point, but the height, I really think though that, the intended purpose when we created this overlay district was to attract a higher density, was to attract potentially long-term hotel/banquet, whatever type of facility. You're not going to have a lot of success in a 3-story product. You are going to have the 4th story. Okay, there is no doubt in my mind whatsoever. So whether you come up with a recommended 4 stories or not to exceed at the midpoint, I would like to see that put in here so that kind of takes us away from that 6-story, which I think was a little bit too much for that area.
I think what might clean up the or less concern of someone driving up the height is the fact that in part 22, people had to, if you're going to have let's say previously you were going to have a 4-story building, it had to be 14 feet on the 1st story, and each story had to be at least 10 feet above that.
That was
So now you're-
excessive. Yeah.
Right, now you're talking about a 44-foot tall building because of our story requirement. So I think us pushing that down, people aren't going to overbuild. It's just expensive to overbuild. I'm not saying the 1st story might not be taller than 10, but I think if people could get away with 12, they would probably try to build 12 on the 1st floor instead of 14. So that may take care of itself. That concern might, there are sort of competing interests there. We're driving up by the story requirements being so high, the height automatically, but then wanting whichever's less on the other end. So those were competing interests. So I think we've maybe resolved some of that where we can just, if you would like to drop the or less and it's, the maximum is 3 stories and it's 40 feet, no one's going to build a 2-story building that's got 40 feet. I mean, 40 feet's measured between the midpoint, between the peak and the
But
gutter.
keep in mind, if a convention center were to go in there, then you'd have a big atrium with maybe a floor above it, and now you do have a 2-story building that you're pushing that upper limit.
Right.
Correct.
So you have to address it. In part 22, and it's just, those of you that know me know that an engineer has a really weird mind. What is the definition of height of a 1st floor? When we think structurally, it's from the finished floor of a structure to the next finished floor above. And this appears to say
we're ignoring the structure between the ceiling and the next finished floor. And so I don't know what the definition of ground floor, first floor, maximum height is.
I
That
think it's,
to the
it should
ceiling?
say ceiling height.
To the finished ceiling height.
Should say ceiling height.
So we need to do just a little bit of tweaking there because I did not understand.
That would really clear things up.
We can clarify
Yeah.
22, and I don't have the definitions section in front of me, and I don't know if you want me to dig into, I mean,
No,
so
not
tonight
now.
is first reading, so
Right.
really the purpose is to get your feedback, because then we'll make more red lines and bring it back to you in a month for,
Approval. But I still am going to be steadfast in my four-story capability in that area. I think we need to have that option. Even if it's three-story with a special land use of four. But we need to have the four-story option because of that particular piece of property and that whole peninsula. How do
I
we get?
agree.
You agree? Thank you,
agree.
Mr. Ramos.
In
Mr. Powell?
in that area.
I don't disagree with you. I would say that this is kind of a unique double-edged sword, right? So this board would like to have, obviously like to have the flexibility. If the appropriate project were to present itself, as we hope it does. As it's written now, we continue to see these site plans that don't even get anywhere at the planning commission. You know, I think one of them from ground, from the dirt to the top of the pitch line on the roof was 82 feet. You know, it was, I mean, it's just so overbearing that it's obnoxious, you know, and, this changes in response to that, obviously, because they keep coming back over and over and over, and nobody on the lake wants that. So
There's
I would be
questions,
in
yeah.
favor of giving ourselves some flexibility to go to 4 stories.
So
Trustee Smith?
my comments are a little bit bouncing off of trustee Ruggles as well, is I'm comfortable and I would prefer to go with the planning commission's recommendation as is and not kowtow to one particular plan that has not made it through the planning commission. So I'm comfortable with the 3 stories. I don't necessarily object to a special land use if that's the direction this board and my colleagues wish to go to, if that wants to be the caveat. But I agree that it's overbearing, it's too much on that piece of property, it's too high. The residents,
You're talking about the 6 stories.
yeah, it's just too big.
Let me give you an example, and this is where, coming from a developer's standpoint, what we've seen on that site in the past is the biggest, tallest, most dense building and most dense site you can have. If there was a spot for a tree, you were lucky.
Yeah.
So the special land use is a tool that the township can use and say, oh, you want 4 stories? Fine, but you're not gonna get that big a building. So you're gonna put the rest in open space, in lawn area or something, instead of 4 stories, maximizing the site.
It's a tool in the box.
It's a tool in the
Right.
box,
I-
yeah.
I agree that I don't have any objections if we want to add that part, but I'm not comfortable unless we add that. Otherwise, it's too much.
Absolutely
I
correct.
don't have a problem as long as the language in there to allow it, because we're being very short-sighted, very narrow-minded. We have one person that has interest in it, but there is still a whole other side of the peninsula there that if we're going to attract people, there has to be a balance as an investor. I've done enough of this, Mike, you've done enough of it. You know that land cost versus return, there has to be, you have to be able to make that work. If you don't have the right formulation, you're not going to necessarily get the type or quality of product that you really want. So allowing something to go a little bit higher, I think it was a little too much before, but the 4-story would probably be that comfort zone. I've spoken with several people on the lake, and, you know, their first impression of it was, oh my God, this thing is, skyscraper, But then you say, okay, well, what if we took it down 2 stories? Okay, we could live with that. It wouldn't be so imposing. So that, I think, is something that should be 3-story, 4-story special land use.
what kind of height, if we're going to look at putting a 4th story as a special land use?
50
what
feet.
50 feet?
Yeah, that would be mid-roof, that would be the max.
Chief Allen, you were going to say something?
Yeah, we're going to get to them.
Yeah, I wanted to wait, make sure that I'm okay to weigh in. I know the project, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, I know the project I think you're referring to.
Well, you need to.
The public can't hear you.
Public can't hear you.
I think I know the project you're referring to, but keep in mind that when the building meets a certain height threshold from finished grade to the eave, it has to meet fire apparatus aerial access. Wasn't just about the height. There was no turn radius on that project, nor could they meet the setbacks. So the footprint of that property was no way going to accommodate what they were trying to do there. It wasn't they were against the height. There's a lot more to it with that. And when we talk definitions, this is just my recommendation. We should probably look in the building code, fire code. I think they give definitions to what they would consider story height, just so it's consistent.
Yeah,
That's just a recommendation. I would be,
yeah, that I would defer to, the building official's interpretation of the submitted plan and working with the planning director. That, of course, project is gone, but we're
Yeah.
talking about the future and next project.
yeah, and I just wanted you to understand that there's more, there's a lot of, it's pretty fluid when you look at that.
lot of parts.
Because the trucks have to be able to get in there too.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to say that.
Do you happen to know what the aerial height standard is?
Well, it depends on the truck.
Okay.
And keep in mind, it's, any residential building like that is gonna be required to have life safety features put in place. Most hotels, you look at these hotels, there's even these high rises, the aerials are not gonna reach them. That's why they have life safety features. They're gonna have to be suppressed. They're gonna have to have fire alarms appropriate to exiting too. And what you're talking about, there would be no problem with aerial apparatus when the heights we're talking about here, as long as we have the appropriate setbacks, so.
Correct.
Thank
And
you.
again, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all, that he answered my
Yeah,
question.
that's, I think, going to be the magic number to make things work in the future. So, like I say, if it's 3-story, 4-story special land use, I don't have a problem with putting that caveat in there, but I do not want to see, and you may make a recommendation on the height and come back and tell us, hey, maybe it isn't 50 feet, maybe it's
Well, I
52
think-
feet, maybe it's 40.
I think 45 is something that I'd be comfortable with because we've driven the story numbers down. I think you can easily get to that height of 45 feet. I don't know.
That's pretty close.
Yeah.
What you don't want to do is cut yourself a little too short. What they'll do is flatten out the roof down now, and they'll make it look terrible, because if you have a 4-story building and flat roof, that's a totally different look than a really nice gabled
Exactly.
roof.
That's why I strongly recommend the 50-foot mark.
That actually happened in the last submittal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would strongly recommend it.
I can use that number.
Okay.
Are you done with your?
Yeah.
Are you jumping off stories?
Yes, we were.
Sean, just to point out to you, there, in that same section that you're referring to, there is a section about minimum setbacks from Pontiac Lake.
Yes.
And there's a number attached to 3 stories or less.
So, Yeah.
And there's a number attached to each story
section is that?
over 3.
right.
I just
Which-
wanted to call that to your
It shouldn't
attention.
matter, 3 stories or less is by right, so over 3, it just falls into however many we should be good, but we'll take a look at it. There's another section, part 19, before you jump off this, it strikes out hotels over 3 stories. Well, if we're gonna allow hotels here, it could go back in. It would come back in because this could be more than 3 stories. So part 19 would go away
I don't care, you're doing your own work.
Okay, yeah.
or be modified.
Yeah, be modified.
Doing it, just building as good as
I
fine.
did have a question on that one too.
I mean, and we'll clean these up between first and second reading. It was just
I mean,
getting
other than
feedback.
that, I think this is a great document. There's been a lot of housekeeping items cleared up, a lot of little things that, the acreage has always concerned me. You're using the road as part of the property. Why wouldn't it be included? I mean. it's
On
not-
bigger lots.
Yeah, I mean, on bigger lots, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
And perhaps it will promote people to do a little more land preservation and develop things a little more appropriately and give the planning department some tools in the box to do a few things. So, Mr. Powell.
I have a number of small technical things that I will go over with Sean between the readings. So that's not a problem. I do have one major item though, and this is the place to discuss it. Because of the site plan that was just approved tonight, item number 32, 33, and 34 all impact that site plan. By changing our ordinance and adding the word "and gutter" into the dimensions of a parking space. Curb and gutter cross-sections range anywhere from 12 inches to 36 inches in depth, in width. So the way this reads, not only are we demanding that curb and gutter be placed around each parking space, but if somebody wants to put a 36-inch curb and gutter cross-section in here, now a parking space is going to be 3 feet longer than what the ordinance requires, because you're including the gutter, the white section of pavement that goes in front of the curb, into the requirement of curb and gutter. And technically, that's going to be extremely burdensome. Not only that, you take a road and you want the driveway to be 24 feet wide, and you have a 3-foot curb and gutter on each side. Now you have a 30-foot wide driveway instead of a 24-foot wide drive. And so technically, there's an issue here that I'd like to go over with Sean.
Should be inclusive in the.
Should be inclusive.
should be inclusive.
I have no problem removing the 6-inch curb. That's only 6 inch wide, 6 inches high, because you can't drive on that. But we drive on gutters all the time.
Yeah.
If it's inclusive, and I want to ask Mike Dwayne, if it's inclusive, we may have to go back to the 20-foot depth. Because if we're going to say, because the average is what, it's either 18 or 24 is a standard curb, right? 24.
I design them at 12 to 36.
But I mean, most of them are probably 18 or 24.
inches is pretty common.
So if that's inclusive, then I think we're going to have to kick the space potentially back out
Except your
again.
wheels go all the way forward and you hit the curb, your tires are on the gutter. You're not being kept back from the curb because of the gutter.
I mean, we can look at it.
Yeah,
We're
so
gonna
I need to discuss that with Sean.
And I don't know if we want
Right.
Mike to weigh in while he's here, because obviously he's reviewing this too.
Well, what you don't want is an ordinance that changes the designer's intent and then tries to skirt the rules by eliminating the gutter.
Yeah, we'll just have a straight-faced curb and
we
no
don't-
no gutter at all.
With a break in the pavement between
Right.
there. We don't want that at all.
Right.
So we want something that makes sense. Typically, I see it measured from the face of curb because that's where you would park from.
Yeah, these are areas that obviously, we're fortunate to have, you on the
Or
board.
unfortunate,
And-
but, so let's.
We'll see, I'll let you know.
Let Sean and I deal with
These
that.
guys kind of hash it out
Yeah.
and bring a recommendation back to the board. That would be what I would entrust you with that, so.
So that'd be
I
good.
don't have a problem.
No, this is just first reading.
Yeah,
and We
that's
might
right.
all digest this a little bit more and come up with some other tweaks for Sean, which I'm sure he's just as looking forward to so much.
Absolutely.
And so, no, that's fine with me, yeah.
Anything else?
Just one other quick thing, if you think about it, part 33, parking space length may be reduced by 1 foot where the space abuts a sidewalk. So I don't know if it's reducing from 20 feet to 19 feet or from 18 feet to 17 feet. I don't know what that means, and I don't know what
Well,
prompted
these are, again,
the
these are-
reduction.
This will fall
So-
into those little comments
Yeah,
that you can.
Absolutely. So,
Off,
thank you guys for my
Yeah. No,
putting up
that's
with
fine,
me.
Mike. Everybody appreciates it.
Can I make a?
Yes, go ahead, Counselor.
Sean, are you on a time crunch to get these approved?
No.
I only question that because you're gonna have to publish notice of consideration, and that notice is the version that was introduced to the board.
We don't publish the whole version, we publish the sections that are changing and then make the specific language available, or else we take out a whole page ad in the Oakland Press and it'd be $10,000. So the sections won't necessarily change, and we may over-publish if we decide, for example, on the hotel issue, if Part 19 comes out. So I think we'll be
I
covered.
guess what I was saying was maybe it's better to postpone consideration to the next meeting of first reading so that you have a clean copy coming into
Oh,
first
that's a
reading.
good idea.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
Great
that's a
idea.
good idea.
Postpone, I'm sorry, what?
Postpone the first reading.
Postpone the first reading so that you can flush out everything so that first reading comes back with a clean copy. And I'm only suggesting it if time is not an issue.
I don't know, I mean, you see how, well, I don't have the public hearing notice in front of me.
I saw it.
It's at the end of the package.
Yeah, I guess, do you think it's necessary that we do this?
I don't, but it sounds like there's going to be some potentially significant changes.
But I don't think
That term
April 4th
significant is what,
what's published
I don't-
right now, the date, Sean.
I don't think it's going to be a big deal, but
It's up to
certainly-
you all. I just
And
thought I'd
April
throw
4th.
that out there.
So this is how we publish, and you'll see, it just lists the sections and the articles, and it doesn't necessarily get into
Nuts and bolts.
This
the
is
nuts
a-
and bolts.
This is a notice of public hearing.
Correct, but the notice.
The notice of consideration is notice of the ordinance that the township board considers. So you publish a notice of posting and you actually post the ordinance.
But not in the newspaper.
No, you post it in 5 places at the
Correct.
township. It's available.
That has
And the
to happen.
newspaper says where it's posted and how they could see it.
That has to happen between first and second reading.
Correct.
So what I guess I'm saying is if we're not ready to come back in a month, then I won't come back in a month, but it doesn't force us to have to come back for first reading.
But you'll have to publish the version you have in front of you. When I say publish, I mean post and publish the notice of posting.
If you move it to second reading, subject to the changes we've discussed tonight and subject
You
to me.
haven't decided all the changes.
no, but we.
Subject to
will
us
tomorrow.
resolving these in time for consideration at second, they have the ability to amend it at second or can it at second. So just give us some flexible language.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I agree completely, just so you know that the version that you presented today is the version that's going to be posted throughout the township.
Oh, not a corrected version.
Correct.
But what I guess I'm asking, and this is taking an inordinate amount of time to get through, I apologize. If you give direction for us to go and make, so this is a red line, we're not going to publish a red line version. We're going to publish a clean version of what's being proposed. We're going to post that. And we're going to publish this notice.
The statute says in the form in which it's introduced.
Okay, so we are going to publish a red line. So the question just becomes, if the direction's given for us to resolve some of these things between first and second reading, you're saying that we can't go away and clean some of this up between first and second?
You can,
But you're saying I'm publishing this,
yes,
whether they're seeing this as second or not?
yes.
I see.
I see.
That's no big deal.
That's no big.
Other than the public will see a version that is not going to pass. That's what I'm trying to say. Maybe I was
They're
very
here tonight for the
inarticulate.
public hearing and appear to be
That's
very
right.
concerned.
Normally,
The only
it
two that are
wouldn't pass
concerned
anyways.
about
There's
it.
always changes.
There's always something.
It's
I
fine.
see what you're
just-
saying.
Okay, sorry it
because-
took me so long to get
No,
to
I
that.
wasn't receiving it
Hey, we're
either,
just
because if
talking
we just have to publish this, and we'll just publish this knowing, and we're on the record tonight saying we know there are going to be some changes, but we're moving it. I just don't
It
want to,
doesn't hurt just to postpone first consideration 1 month. That's really the cleaner option, and it doesn't hurt or change anything that you're doing and any tweaks or edits.
it does not.
Doesn't. So I think we should probably go with council's recommendation.
I am fine with that. I just was,
Okay, I'm going to make a motion to postpone moving to second reading and send back for revision.
that sounds great.
Looking for support?
Support.
I'm sorry.
Support.
Repeat that motion.
Are we doing it wrong?
You made a motion to postpone moving it to second reading?
No, no, that's not what you said.
No, we want to
That's what he
just
said.
postpone
Postpone.
first.
Not
Motivation of first
You
reading.
want to
First
postpone
reading.
this first
Oh,
reading?
I'm
Yes,
sorry.
he said
Postpone
first reading.
No, he said
I said
postpone from
second.
second.
Make,
I heard first.
postpone the first reading,
Said first.
excuse me, I thought I said first.
Is that what you
First,
want,
yeah.
Sean? A postpone
And
of the first
we will
reading?
postpone that.
I'm good with
to-
it either way.
Support.
We wanted it, yeah.
I have
Support.
motion, I have support.
Just like
So it
Lisa.
was moved, I have a motion by Supervisor Colwell, second by Trustee Smith, to postpone the consideration of the first reading of the zoning ordinance amendment.
To when?
Next month,
1 month.
right?
The next regular meeting?
We'll keep it moving.
Scheduled board meeting.
That's what, yeah.
Regular township board.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
May
Okay, thank you.
That's all right.
May 14th.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. That was a lot of
No, not May 14th.
mucking around there, but it's very important.
21st.
21st. Yeah. Item F, Resolution 24-020, approving sidewalk and temporary construction sidewalk easements for the Elizabeth Lake Road Improvement Project, 310 Town Center. Counselor? Anything you want to add?
Need a motion?
No, I do want the township board to understand that we are agreeing to do things that we don't normally agree to do. We are actually accepting responsibility over sidewalks across these properties. We are, in one case, we are paying their fees and having to have these easements reviewed by their attorney and by the lender. This letter agreement that they provided as it relates to, I believe, the first resolution, which is 310, that letter agreement specifically says that we are paying attorney fees up to $5,000 for the easements and the project. So it's a little broader than just review of the easements. As it relates to the lender, it's up to $5,000, which they provided documentation to us that it is $5,000 for the lender to review the easement. It's all here. I know you got it late because we've been trying to get this negotiated. The version in front of you is the version that's been agreed upon by both sides. I just want to make sure that you're all aware of what you're agreeing to. And if you have any questions about the easements and why certain language was in there or isn't in there, I'm happy to answer any of them, but we've been going back and forth for a few weeks
Best case
now.
scenario here? I'm sure there's been a lot of work put into it.
Yeah, I don't see it getting better
Yes. No.
for us.
The part of the big difficulty in here is the lender. The lender has certain language in their mortgage on the property that they have the right to interject in things like this. So all they are doing at the bottom line is, at the end of the day, is protecting their interests and making sure we're not doing anything wacky. We are going to be responsible for the sidewalks in the town center district. That is just going to be a hard, cold matter of fact. If you're going to have people walking around, we're going to keep them clean, and that's just the bottom line throughout our district. I'm not even talking about these. I'm talking about other sidewalks in our area. That'll be something we're going to do because we're just going to have to, but that's subject for another.
Just so you understand, that was originally in their request, that we salt and plow, and I objected to that because I think if we're going to have language like that, it needs to be specific, like how many inches do you plow and when do you salt? And so they agreed to take that out.
Oh, good.
There is.
Good job there.
Correct. Once you have a curvature of that, the roundabout, the three-legged roundabout there is a minimal amount of sidewalk that goes into their area. The biggest thing we were trying to get, it was a construction easement, because the construction easement goes back well into their property. But they also benefit from it, because how many new feet of road are we putting in for them, Mike?
200 and some change.
Yeah, so, I mean, if somebody came along and says, hey, I'm gonna give you a brand-new road, and if you look at that road, it's just about ready for some work. So the timing for them, in this regard, is perfect. Unfortunately, it's a East Coast base, there's lawyers involved, and you know what happens when you get lawyers involved.
They've already approved it, correct, per that email?
What's that?
The lender gave their approval,
Yeah, the lender has already given their approval.
right? But the fee is 5,000,
The
which is,
fee
yeah.
is so we'll start with this first resolution as it relates to 310 Town Center. You'll see that by approving this resolution, you're approving the sidewalk easement, the temporary construction easement, and the letter agreement, which agrees to reimburse, essentially $10,000, because it's $5,000 to the lender and up to $5,000 for the attorney for the easement and the project.
So that'd be 4,900.
It'll.
$999, yeah.
But the other thing I wanted to point out as it relates to this easement, which can be administratively difficult, is that due to the project, the development itself, they've got restrictions that prohibit construction.
It's not even worth talking about. We'll be well beyond that, because if we get started on this on our schedule, that puts us well into that time. We don't have to worry about being in there in October.
It's not just about initial construction. It's any construction, including maintenance of the sidewalks.
And the conversation I had with Mr. Gershenson today said if we were doing electrical and doing cleanup over there that time of year, he said that wouldn't be considered an impediment. I said, okay, thank you.
Okay, well, I just wanted to,
I have a question.
The schedule goes, hopefully the schedule's changed because the last schedule I saw went past October.
A lot of that's restoration and electrical, like streetlights and things.
Not the road and sidewalks
Okay.
themselves.
Okay.
And the contractor's been instructed to start at that point first,
Oh, okay.
so.
And then just to clarify all this maintenance talk of sidewalks and all this, we're just talking about the new portion that we're putting in, because they have, Gershenson
Correct.
has existing sidewalks.
Only things
correct?
within the easement,
Okay.
that's it, so.
Question. So the roundabout that we're putting in, we're widening the road. As far as maintaining the road, that's still the road commission,
Road
correct?
commission maintains a certain part of it, we may have to contribute to clean some of the side gutters and things like that in the parking
Really?
zones, yeah.
All right, now to go to the sidewalk. We're talking about us maintaining new sidewalk, correct?
Correct.
Do we have any idea how many feet of sidewalk we're talking?
Mike probably knows.
Roughly
2,000 feet of sidewalk?
2,000?
I mean,
No way, really?
Not in
sides of
the
Lake
easement.
Road.
In the easement,
square feet or linear?
All the way across our frontage.
Yeah.
the whole frontage, Mike, or just this, for this agreement?
Well, we're going to be
We're
responsible
gonna be
for our sidewalk.
responsible. Look,
I mean, I was just talking about this agreement for
Oh,
the
this
easement.
agreement,
Very
very
small.
small segment.
Come
together.
Are you talking a piece of sidewalk kind of around the curvature?
From here to Hannah,
Okay.
okay? This is what makes this whole thing so nuts. This is such a small encroachment on this property that, in the grand scheme of things, it wouldn't even add up to a fly speck.
Okay,
Okay.
so for the easements, we're not talking much sidewalk.
No, but we are ultimately, as a township, and the board needs, this is something we're delving into, that we are going to keep those areas clean for people for mobility, and we are going to do it. And that's just going to be part of that
Okay.
town center district feel, ultimately.
Does he do any maintenance
on his sidewalk?
I don't
Usually,
think so.
but not in this case.
Not in this case.
That's why we need
But the
the,
rest
other
of them are.
sidewalks.
I'm sorry.
Is he going to start and join us in maintaining that to make it walkable?
Until we,
Get
if
Yeah.
we come
the
in, yes,
message
the
and
road
everything
commission
else,
doesn't
as
do
Okay.
well
it.
as the neighborhoods and things
I
of
think
that
our own
nature,
ordinance requires us
which
to
we
do it
can't
as
force
landlords.
the issue.
Right.
But what we
That'd
may
be
do,
very nice.
there is something we can talk about, but I'm not going to talk about now.
Same thing on our site, the new township hall. We're going to have
Right
to be
on.
responsible
Yep.
for all our sidewalks and everything. We're just going to
Yeah.
expand it along
I
the right
get
of way.
that because those are on our property.
And this is our property.
That's right. For Bob. Yeah.
Mike, the easement for the sidewalk that is on the screen is like the size of this area of the room. Just about 1,500 square feet. And the sidewalk won't go through the whole
You
easement.
guys need any exercise in the winter?
What were you gonna say, Mike?
that's, yeah, that specific easement is just needed because we've got a crossing meeting the existing sidewalk there. So we're gonna have to get onto their private property where that sidewalk exists and access it and tie into it. That's the temporary access drive easements, because we're gonna be.
Go
you
back,
know,
yeah, right there.
The roundabout will be, getting into that area, we're gonna have to reshape that drive to make it meet up with the roundabout. And the sidewalk adjacent to it will have to be modified too. We haven't talked about it yet, and well, I know you guys already at the special agreed to the highway easement for the township's property. We're also getting those for the other properties that are impacted. That's not part of your action tonight, but other easements we're working on.
So the new portion for the sidewalk easement, you said is roughly linear feet, just a rough estimate, the length of this room.
No, that easement that Sean
The
said,
easement
it's
is-
only a 50-foot wide easement, that sidewalk one that he was showing on the screen.
Okay.
It's only
That's
50
just the
feet in
easement.
length.
Okay,
That one, just so that we can access it, get in there, do the work that we need to and get out.
okay,
That's a
gotcha.
permanent
Mr.
sidewalk.
Supervisor,
The length of road that we're improving total is just under 2,300 feet. So,
And on our side of the road, that's where we'll have the sidewalk that's going to run that in its entirety, and we're going to have to be
Right,
responsible.
of course. That's makes sense.
And again, hoping we can,
Mr. Supervisor?
Yes.
I think I'm following everything appropriately. I do have a question. how can this board approve an easement on somebody else's property? It says
We're agreeing to the terms of this.
we're agreeing to the
granting
terms,
us-
we're not approving it, but it says the board approves the easement.
Because in this case, we have responsibilities within the easement document. So we have to actually sign it.
I see, okay, we're not granting the easement.
No.
We're just approving the terms.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Have they approved the terms yet, Lisa?
Through the attorney unofficially, yes. They haven't signed it, but they have approved
We
the
have to-
documents in front of
We
you.
have to sign first then. We sign first?
No, they can sign first, but I didn't ask them to sign it till I knew that
They would.
we were good
You're
with the
wasting
language.
time.
Yeah,
Why didn't you-
they'd like to have the signed document in there.
So Mike, all you're doing is giving Lisa permission to finalize this with her attorney and Rick permission to sign it.
So I would have them sign first, give it to us, then have Rick sign, so we have the original for recording.
And we'll record it, yeah.
Okay.
We could talk more about it later, but in Lisa's conversations, maybe you can relay to them that we're hoping that they will join in the community area of maintaining their
Yeah,
sidewalks as
that's
well.
another conversation that will be had with the
Okay.
organization.
Okay.
As
Thank
far
you.
as the temporary construction easement goes, they did insist, they wanted some language in here that says all of our contractors have to have this, like they wanted it all in there. And I said, we already have a contract that spells all that out.
Yeah.
So I offered this certificate of insurance with the policy, they accepted it, which is why we attached it as an exhibit. It's not normal to do that, but if that is what they wanted, then I did already talk to our insurance agent to make sure there wasn't anything confidential or anything prohibiting us from attaching it, and the answer was no.
Okay. Are we good?
Yep.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 24-020, resolution approving sidewalk and temporary construction meetings for the Elizabeth Lake Road Improvement Project, and in particular 310 Town Center Boulevard. It's a motion, looking for support.
Support.
I have motion for myself, support from trustee Voorhees. Roll call vote?
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Ruggles?
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes. Supervisor Kowal?
Yes.
Treasurer Roman?
Yes.
Trustee Powell?
Yes.
Trustee Smith? Or Trustee Voorhees, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Good job.
Okay, motion carries. Next item, G, resolution 24019, approving sidewalk easement for the Elizabeth Lake Road Improvement Project, 10770 Elizabeth Lake Road. We want to pull that up on the signed screen there? Is it up?
Yeah.
Okay. Any explanation or anything you want to?
It's just easement for access to and reconstruction of the sidewalks and kind of the approach there. We need to redo the XL, decel lanes and get the grades to work with the new curb and gutter that's going to be in the area. So that portion is on private property and we just need access to do that.
Very good. Any other questions from the board?
Can someone, do we have a picture of what the heck a curb and gutter is? Because I'm not sure what it is.
Well, when you had too many beers and you fall down in the street, that's the
What is the
curb.
gutter? I understand.
That's where the curb meets. This is curb, this is gutter. Gutter
Oh,
meets that.
okay.
It's called a gutter because you get the road runoff, the stormwater will collect in the gutter.
Comes down
and
a
flow
little-
down the
Right.
gutter channel.
Okay,
It's
that's called
for
the gutter.
direction of drainage.
Okay.
So there's lots
Where all
of
the leaves gather
Yeah.
against the curb.
Absolutely.
cigarette butts.
Cigarette butts,
Yeah.
Any questions? None. Make a motion to adopt resolution number 24019, resolution approving sidewalk easement for the Elizabeth Lake Road Improvement Project, in particular 10770 Elizabeth Lake Road. I make that in the form of a motion, looking for support.
Support.
I have motion, I have support, roll call vote?
Supervisor Kowal?
Yes.
Treasurer Roman?
Yes.
Trustee Powell?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Ruggles?
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes.
Hallelujah.
And
Okay.
trustee Voorhees, please.
Trustee
I'm
Voorhees.
forgetting you way down there. You're so quiet tonight.
I know I am quiet.
If the table were curved, you wouldn't have that problem.
I know I'm getting a bad neck
Now
from
it's like
this.
going the opposite way. I don't know what happened. Civic Center update. Mr. Roman.
Wow, I'm going to defer to Mr. O'Neill.
Wow. Okay, so a couple things. And I want to touch on Stanley Park too, because it's in the Civic Center area, but that's not necessarily the purpose of this, but some of you have asked. We received today a revised draft of the contract between the contractor, STE, and the township. We're taking a look at that. The goal is to have the pre-construction meeting for Stanley Park in the next 2 weeks. We haven't picked a date yet, but that is the timeline, so we'll hopefully be moving out there by May 1st for sure. We are also, I think yesterday we had a meeting on some site work questions. There are some modifications needed. I believe we are roughly 2 weeks away. In a best case scenario, we are 2 weeks away from the bid package going out for the site work based on the changes that were discussed yesterday. So May bid and June board meeting to approve bids, probably September construction. That's all very rough and approximate, but just to give you an idea, that's on site work only. Next issue. Township Hall is got some timber frame construction, some timber on the inside, as you guys know, we talked about that in great detail, and some timber elements at the entryways, in particular columns that kind of hold up the covered entryway at the main level and at the lower level. The public safety building, and I think there was maybe some confusion, those of us on the staff and those of us involved at the committee level recall there being a couple of timber columns that lead to the roof at the main entryway for the public safety building. That is not how Redstone recalls it. They have proposed, and it's been priced out, I don't think it's a huge deal, to have posts that are wrapped in this metal cladding. These are the colors that they've provided to me. So initially, up until yesterday, I thought I was coming to ask you to pick a color. Now I'm asking you two questions. One, do you want to pick a color and have aluminum wrapped on these things, which I don't think will look very good? Or do you want them to put wood or a wood-like material that has maybe some texture on it that will go from the masonry columns that are going to be maybe around this high off the ground up to the roof structure? They recall us using this. I don't, and it doesn't matter what we recall. We're still at a point where we can turn this into, again, either real wood or something that appears to be real wood. And I like that option better personally, and I think so does Nick, so do some of the board members I've talked to.
I'm twitching over here because I specifically remember all of us talking about wood, number one. Number two, there was a time when a conversation came and said, well, we may need to do structural steel, but we'll encase it in wood. And that's when we started to talk about a synthetic type, I will use the term Trex type material, but something synthetic that has a wood grain to it that feels more like wood. That was never, ever on the agenda. The only metal that there is up on the upper dormer, there's siding up there that we looked at. There was no.
I kind of anticipated that you might all feel the same way. You want wood for those two columns, and then,
Like hell if you put that metal.
or wood.
We have given very clear direction that we wanted the buildings to be complementary, that the entrances were wood. I am the one that brought up maybe just exploring a different wood-like material for cost, but it still looked like wood.
Right,
Nobody's
not
mentioned.
a wrapped in aluminum.
No, nobody's mentioned that ever.
Right. So I think that's great. If you're all on the same page, which I think you pretty much are, that's perfect. Because tonight, we're not worrying about colors. We're going back to material. Now, I guess color-wise, though, it does raise the question. We talked about some darker wood. We saw a lot of like yellow. I don't think that was their intent.
Orange, no.
But I don't know if you want to.
I don't think there's a sample in this building that shows the color that I think the township is targeting.
So what I want to do is, after the meeting, I'm going to set these over here by our color palette and let me know what you think. And, just individually let me know what you think and I'll follow up.
Sean, just to clarify, why do we need to let you know that if we don't want to use that material?
You're not going to use this material. I'm just hoping to give the architects some more direction on the color.
For the
Because Stu's
wood.
talking about staining and what color stain, and I'm like, I don't have a code for you, dude. We're just, come on. So,
come pre-finished?
No, most of those timbers do not come pre-finished, okay? They'll typically come in the raw, then you you can order some of them pre-finished, but for what our purposes, I don't think they're going to come pre-finished. I think they're going to be stained and sealed on site.
Unless you do Trex, which is a bamboo
Unless it's a
composite or
synthetic.
something. Or
Correct,
PVC
and I only use
composite.
that as a description, I'm
Right.
not saying that
Right.
product.
And I don't think it hurts to just explore cost of that.
Well, no,
We
no.
don't, you know,
Well, I
a Trex-like material, because you know.
But I specifically remember her saying, well, the wood that long might have some movement and do things, that's why we'll do a steel beam to carry that canopy.
And wrap it in wood,
And
yeah.
then we'll wrap it in material. I never in 1,000 years thought this was the material they were gonna wrap it with.
I don't know where the confusion was, but, so I'm gonna leave these over here for color, just so you know, but understanding that we're not gonna go with a metal product, we're gonna go with a wood or wood-like product, either a wood product being the column or a wood-wrapped product going around the column. It may not be structural, but will give the feel and appearance of wood.
Yeah.
If you have a chance, can you talk to Stu, because he seems to be the one that has a pretty good connection with the timber framing people, and see if they can get us either A, some color samples, or B, a few different pieces of material, and I'll be happier than
So when we do the
digging
mock-ups,
mud to make up some stain colors based on the input from the board here.
when we do the mock-ups, which we're still planning on doing, I don't have a price yet. I asked Aaron for a price, and he's waiting on his brick guy to give a price. We've got to paint the wall still.
I have given instructions.
Rick's going to paint the wall tomorrow if you guys want to watch him work. He'll be doing it between 8 AM and 5 PM.
Gonna rain like crazy tomorrow.
It doesn't matter, he's doing it. No, I'm just kidding. So, but Rick, to your point, we'll get some of those samples, chunks, you know, and there is.
Yeah, just chunks.
There's some timber over here, but we'll get that sort of timber with some color on it and be able to move it around in that. So we will get that, and it will be part of that mock-up that we build.
Question
Sounds
for you,
good.
sir.
Yes, sir.
You said the Stanley Park meeting is,
Stanley Park pre-construction meeting will happen in the next 2 weeks.
okay.
And construction will begin in early May. That's the
May.
goal. We're finalizing the contract between, they just got us the A101 and A201 today after a couple attempts to try to get that from them, so.
So if I remember
If
right,
our
the
attorney
rough-
gets going on reviewing that, I don't know. Should be busy looking over my public hearing notice between first and second reading, I guess, so. But I'm not bitter.
so that referendum it was delayed somehow, some way. Do you remember when for bonding out? I don't have money for these parks and rec projects. I need the bond funds.
You've asked, I think
Do
you've
you remember when
requested
that
that.
referendum ends, that 45-day? Maybe Anthony knows.
It was 64-day referendum.
We said referendum.
The referendum to bond out for the parks and rec projects. Remember, we have to
Oh.
give the public a 45-day period to object to.
Correct.
Gosh, I
Objection.
borrowing
I think
money.
we're wild of the woods on that.
think that was 2 meetings ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, but
So-
something happened where it didn't get posted in time. It didn't get
That
posted.
I don't know anything about.
I'll check on it.
Okay. But I think you were moving some money around, and I think you started that process, right?
I mean, I can move some money around, but I couldn't pay for both projects in full right this second.
Well, we may need a personal loan from you then. No interest, of course.
Now that you're not going to the track anymore,
To
it
go to the
shouldn't be a
Ruggles,
problem.
I'll have to go to Ruggles for.
I'm hoping to have some information from you on the mock-up soon, and then we've got, we had an update meeting last Wednesday. We'll have one next Wednesday. The due date for the final design is May 15th, so we're hopeful that everybody hits that mark.
Okay, anything else? Nope.
Do we have the update next Wednesday, or did we put that off a day or 2 days because of we're going to be up north in a committee
It'll
meeting?
be the following week, we'll have the subsequent meeting, I think. Because the next,
It's scheduled for next week, Wednesday morning.
Right.
I can ask about moving it. I don't know why we would need to. We could bump it out, because then if we bumped it out a week, that's going to line up pretty well with getting those final drawings together for the 15th. So
so let's make an inquiry
I will
tomorrow
ask-
on that, and we'll let everybody
I'll ask
know.
Aaron to bump it out a week.
All right, now, off to trustee comments. Trustee Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. It's undeniable that we are very comfortable with each other and we're friends, as we say here. Get a little bit silly in what we say, but I'll be quick in my trustee comments. There's great things the library summer newsletter should have come out and hit your mailbox recently or about to. And they just have a booming summer planned with lots of fun. Their next book sale is June 13th, 14th, and 15th. And then they're going to do a summer series, a summer concert series, and they're going to include food trucks and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it'll be fun, so please check out their summer programming and support the library. And then I wanted to thank our fire department this weekend. They took their time and went out and collected funds to help support Walk for Red, which is the group that supports cancer fighters and survivors that are firefighters. And I just wanted to thank our firefighters for going out and taking their time to do that. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Voorhees.
Thank you. White Lake Historical Society is back in business in regards to, they take a winter hiatus every year. If you're interested in any historical stuff of White Lake, we just changed it to the second Thursday of every month at 7 o'clock. We'd love to have some new and different blood for fresh ideas and just to help us out and to learn about White Lake history. One of my favorite activities is May 18th, about a month from today, is No Has. All the things that you can and can't bring is on the township website. We have a new location, Alpine Valley. And if I remember correctly, it's 9 to 1.
Correct.
It's a fun day. And hopefully everyone brings out their hazardous waste. Like I said, all the information's on the website.
That's a big site for us to spread the hazardous waste on, so I like that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
All the skiers can go into
I
it.
need Joe to hear that.
Yeah, I know that.
There's so much there already.
And I am all set, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Powell.
Yes, two really brief comments. Something is, there's a committee that I don't think any of the board members know about formally, and that's the DPW Advisory Committee, in which we meet as often as we can to discuss the negotiations with Commerce Township to renew our sanitary sewer agreement with them. I think it's going well. Our township reached out to Commerce Township. Commerce Township now has provided us with a document for us to respond to, and we're doing that. We're going to have a meeting with Commerce Township here in the next little bit. We're going round and round. But the board needs to know that this is a really important item, that there are people in the township that are pursuing that, and I wanted the rest of you to know that. Otherwise, have a great summer. No, it's the weather. It's great to have great weather, and I thank the public that's watching, and thank you very much for the earlies. You guys carry us very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rahman.
Yeah, thanks to the earlies. Thanks to everyone watching from home. Just want to let everyone know we are now selling our boat shrink wrap bags again for recycling. They're for sale at the treasurer's counter. They're only $7. We're pushing that. It's a great program. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Ruggles.
Yeah, thank you. The Planning Commission's meeting on the 18th has been canceled. Our next one will be on the 2nd, and I would just like to say again, thanks to the Planning Commission for all the hard work they put into our new document you've got there. And our chairperson, Joe Seward, he's done a great job. So thanks to him.
Cool. Mr. Noble.
I'd just like to thank my staff for working on the upcoming election, May 7th, for the school millages. And future, if anybody wants to or sign up to work elections, please get a hold of the clerk's office. Also, I want to thank Sean and Justin and the rest of the staff for working, and the Planning Commission again for working on this tremendous document, preparing it. It's a lot of work.
Okay. Just kind of a touch on the home has on the 18th. It will be from 9 to 1 or until we are at capacity. So if we're at capacity at 11 o'clock in the morning or at noon, you will be turned away. So,
Has that happened before?
almost happened last year.
Last year.
Got real close.
What does that capacity mean?
Truckload of stuff.
How fast can you fill a semi?
Right.
Okay.
Oh, I see, okay.
So, that's left to the vendor, so we will see how that goes. Mr. Roman, I'd like to give you my condolences on the loss of Northville Downs. I understand that you have a chair or a seat or a bench and a few other amenities that you brought with you, and we'll carry those and treasure those forever, so.
It's a sad day.
It's a very sad day.
Horse racing just came to an end in this
In
state.
the great state of
And it
Michigan.
really is a sad day.
It
And
is.
I don't think it's coming back.
It's an industry that was really, we had a lot of very prominent horse tracks, and now they're gone. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah. Yep.
The Township Triangle Trail is moving forward. Anybody that drives anywhere in White Lake knows that things are happening. They're pouring concrete as we speak. I'm just hoping the kids stay out of it. And it'll all be good. So you can actually walk part of it. I wouldn't recommend it. Trail is technically closed. As a disclaimer, for your public safety, stay off of it, okay, for a little while. The bags are available, as Mike said, $7 a bag. I put a little public service announcement out the other day. Someone was thinking and they weren't thinking, and they brought them in an orange bag. That's a non-qualifying bag, and that goes right in the dumpster, and you defeat the purpose, because they will only take the clear bag that has their information on it. So it's real important that you just try to do that, and it's just part of the program. Last year, we were incredibly successful. I think we filled a room 12 by 12 by 45 feet high, was what the calculation that they gave me when they picked up everything. So we'll see. So it's a good thing. It's keeping all that crap out of the landfill, and we're making park furniture and chairs and all kinds of other weird stuff. I'm going to find out a little bit more where it all actually goes and what's made of it, and see if I can get somebody to maybe, give us some leads as to where even our residents could potentially purchase a product that's been recycled right here in White Lake Township. Next week is the MTA. Several of my colleagues will be in Traverse City, learning a lot of things from other colleagues in other communities and finding out what the common problems are and the different seminars. Are you teaching one this year?
I am.
You are. What are you teaching this year?
Our business solutions session, Tuesday at 11:30 with the lunch.
There we go. Okay, I know where I'll be for lunch. Okay, so that being said, but we pick up something every year. Mr. Roman and I one year went and we picked up something extremely specific to bond issuance, and we assisted the library in recovering their initial money that they spent on the land purchase. And these are just things that the information's out there, but it isn't always on the top of the barrel, and we came across it. And so it's very important for that information as a source of information to get that figured out. And last but not least, be on the lookout for a strange flat-tailed rodent in your community. Beavers are in White Lake. We have had a few different complaints on water backup in the community, and I came across, unfortunately, the remains of one, and I warned Gary Wall, the supervisor of Waterford Township. They were infiltrating his community because it was on the intersection of Pontiac Lake Road and Williams Lake Road, and it was definitely a beaver. I know them when I see one. And in the conversation at OCATS on Monday, I brought it up, and there was a good chuckle through the room. And Larry Gray says, "Oh yeah, we got them all over the place." He says, "We actually trapped one that was 75 pounds. Wow, Lord. That's bigger than my dog." Okay, it was. Okay. So, anyways, it just kind of tell you. So, somebody said they're the canary in the coal mine, so that tells me the environment's getting better. You'll be fine, sir.
I had a 10-minute argument with my son because I just saw a dead beaver on the road.
There you go.
And I told him it was a beaver. He told me I'm nuts and I shouldn't be a trustee because I don't know what I'm talking about. It was a beaver.
Can't tell a muskrat from a beaver.
It was
right?
a beaver.
It was a beaver.
harsh.
They are a problem.
Comes with age.
Yeah, that's right. So, with that I say to all of you out there, thank you very much for being here. Earlies, thank you so much. Hannah, thank you. Cast and crew and all the members, thank you so much. And the good team that we have here, I certainly appreciate working with all of you. And we are really propelling the township forward. Some of this stuff has been so frustrating and so exasperating that you want to pull the hair out of your head. But we're making progress. So we'll keep watching. Elizabeth Lake Road will be closed here shortly. Don't be too upset, but when it's done, it's going to be beautiful. So it'll be a great kind of that connecting point. So that I say, good night, God bless. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have support from trustee Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Adjourn.